Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for a brand new top 10 hero channel. Now over 3 years ago I uploaded a top 10 known as the top 10 best Skylanders WoW power abilities, and naturally to say, since it came out more than 3 years ago, the quality was shall we say poor, to say the least. So naturally I feel as though now with the might of the PlayStation 4, I can capture gameplay and improve the visuals of this top 10 tenfold, as well as the audio quality on top of that. So I've gone back and I've completely redone the list so that then it can be a lot more modernized and, of course, hopefully gain a lot more traction with the fact that I have a lot more supporters now than I used to, and I appreciate that beyond words. It truly humbles me. The fact that I have hundreds of people subscribed to the channel, it's such an amazing feeling. And speaking of amazing feelings, I see this figurine right here and he gives me an amazing feeling, but there are certain reposed characters that I left at my university accommodation, because as you can tell I'm currently at my normal regular house rather than my university accommodation at Lincoln. So naturally, some of those reposes aren't accessible to me, and so one of those characters might begin with a C and end in an O and be on this list, and has nothing to do with the character that I'm holding in my hand right now. Even though there isn't enough of Scada that begins with a C or an O, not to the best of my knowledge, whilst I record this blindly without a script. But regardless, this list is of course based on WoW Pals only. Soul Gem's going to be getting their own separate list in a few weeks from now. So of course, reposes are the only characters that can contribute towards this list, since repose characters are the only characters that even get WoW Pals. So naturally, the characters on this list aren't based solely on the characters themselves, nor for posing of their physical figurine. Instead, we're looking solely at the WoW power ability in of itself, how good it is, whether it's effective and a great expansion upon the base gameplay, how much fun it is to utilize, whether it's worth picking a whole new figurine up, and whether it justifies repos in the first place. All of these factors in combination with one another is what makes certain WoW powers better than others, hence why we have the 10 greatest ones ranked in this here top 10. So without further ado, we're going to roll this intro and get into the top 10 best Skylanders WoW power abilities. Without further ado, coming in at number 10, we have none other than Twin Blade Chop Chop. So he looks pretty epic with the sword and all of these animations you see before you. But as you're going to be able to tell as we check out the powers he has, then once you fully upgrade him, his WoW power ability features this Dyson Slice. So what this Dyson Slice does is it gives you a secondary sword, which you don't charge with immediately, so you can walk around looking all badass with both of these swords in hand. So first of all, it's very well animated, but once you unleash it, not only does it have power, but it also has speed too. So now, you know, with this swashbuckling skill, enemies don't stand a chance, and it really does add to how much fun Chop Chop is to watch, and it also adds to his personality as well, expanding upon the design in a way that you really want to see it, because you've seen him with a shield for so long that you want to see him just take up his primary namesakes. You know, his name is Chop Chop, so being able to slice and dice so effectively and chop his enemies up is so damn cool. So I'm glad they created a series for Chop Chop so we could be given these excellent animations and this awesome expansion upon for design, so we can have this maneuverability and increased damage with, of course, an incredible WoW power to boot, putting Twin Blade Chop Chop's WoW power Slice and Dice at number 10 on the list right here. Now coming in at number 9, we have yet another undead character, and this time it takes the form of none other than Series 2 Hex. So as we check out her WoW power abilities right here, you'll see as we scroll through to the end that her WoW power Skull Buddy allows us to, after we finish charging up a Skull Rain, press the primary attack button to conjure a giant skull pal, which first of all is highly intertextual, because you're about to see as we charge it up that it looks just like the skull mask from the Core of Light created by Spyro's Adventure. So yes, it's intertextual and it looks really cool. Look at the details on it in particular. You know, it had, of course, the different carvements in the skull. Now what I also love about this is that it's strategic almost, because you risk giving up your entire skull rain for an attack which does huge chunks of damage, but it might not even attack the enemies around it because it needs to be facing them, and as you can see it heads on a rotation scale which is quite slow. So above all, do you risk giving up the skull rain and your range so that then you have to get up close and personal with enemies, but with an attack that will most likely want to hit them with just how powerful it is. Now unfortunately it's not attacking these training dummies, so you can't see the damage stack up, but believe me, it is there and it is incredible. So risk and reward-esque factor of this WoW power is just ultimately what makes it so investing to utilise, and I love the small little details and intertextuality it possesses, making its model just really cleverly thought out and nice to look at. So Hex, without a shadow of a doubt, is the number 9 greatest WoW power ability, known as Skull Buddy right here. Coming in at number 8 is a Scada, which not many people like, but credit where credit is due. This dude's WoW power is unparalleled, especially amongst the air cast of characters, which notoriously don't have great WoW powers, because here we have Double Barrel, which not only gives you a brand new suit, which looks incredibly cool. Jetpack in red is really fitting for its design and expands upon it in very unique and intriguing ways. But on top of that, we of course get to live up to a figurine and have dual barreled vacuum blasters, which looks awesome from an animation standpoint, and the WoW power is twice as effective as any other, since whilst you're flying and you mash the square buttons, you not only get to increase extra damage from just how fast these pistols fire off, but you also create a huge air explosion, as you saw right there. So you have the extra effectiveness of just how fast these air pellets are flying. And on top of all of that, it's just really fun to be mashing all of these buttons. But then you of course also get the explosion, which has a really wide radius on it and a very high damage output. Like, sure, the knockback is very heavy, but it's made up for with the animations and the sheer amount of damage it causes and the area it causes that damage in. So above all, Full Blast Jetpack's WoW power is fun, thanks to the button mashing nature of it, increasing the pacing of his gameplay. It's really well animated too, and it has some amazing sound effects, because as you blow up you truly feel the explosion and the power from, of course, the ticking time bomb even that it sounds like whilst you of course charge that up. And of course it increases his aesthetics tenfold and just makes Jetpack that much of a cooler character. Therefore, putting Full Blast Jetpack and his WoW power at number 8 on the list. Coming in at number 7, we have Series 2 Stump Smash. So as we check through his powers, this guy's WoW power is most effective based on the path you pick, because if you combine this double nut path with, of course, his WoW power ability, what you get from this auto nuts are nuts galore, to say the least. You fire off so many acorns at a single time that it deals just such sheer quantities in damage, and not to mention it's great for crowd control too, because you can spit them in all directions with speed and ease. So the effectiveness with crowd control from this ability, and then combining that with all of his others, is what helps improve the pacing of this guy's gameplay and makes him so effective in combat, because he is such a tank with his powerful based abilities and his high health bar to be able to, of course, withstand some damage. So for WoW power, just really takes advantage of Stump Smash's base gameplay and really improves just how much fun you have with the character, therefore making the WoW power unparalleled, except for the 6 that are of course better than it, including that of Tidal Wave Gilgrunt and his WoW power. So as we check out the power chamber right here, you will see that for his WoW power we get to ride the Leviathan. Just take a moment to let that sink in, because we get to see, of course, the Water Leviathan on Gilgrunt's figurine, and it adds so much detail to the figurine, and not to mention it looks cool and intimidating. It's a character that you absolutely want to play as, because you cannot wait to unleash the power of that Leviathan, and that's exactly what the WoW power does. And so not only is this Leviathan well animated and truly does give you that sense of raw power as the figurine presents itself with, but is also just oozing with damage. Like, seriously, look at this. Well, you didn't actually get to see much because it was blocked off by the camera, but as you can tell, it deals huge amounts of damage. It's also really well fast paced with more maneuverability than you expect. Sure, it doesn't take corners all too well, so that can negatively affect the pacing if you're trying to corner with it, but apart from that, it's really fun just to unleash it and what it adds to the design overall, making it a very satisfying WoW power that's fun to use, fun to watch unfold before you, and gives you such raw power at your fingertips, making it highly satisfying to take advantage of, mind you. You guys are about to bear witness to the greatest shock you will ever experience in your entire lives, because coming in at number 5 is the Scada that none of you are expecting. It's none other than Series 5 Igniter, not even cracking the top 3. It's a huge anomaly amongst the top 10 series, because normally Igniter's here cracking number 1, but that just goes to show you how great the 4 WoW powers upcoming truly are, because they can outdo even that of Series 2 Igniter, which is no easy feat, I can assure you, because even removing the bias, this guy's WoW power, without a shadow of a doubt, is phenomenal. As you're about to see here, we have the blue flame, which basically means that in flame form or after a mega slam, we leave a trail of blue fire. So just in case Igniter wasn't broken enough already with, of course, how powerful his slam is, now enemies are constantly trapped in a wave of frequent damage by the fire that's left behind by it. You can create traps from a distance and basically defeat enemies with ease without even approaching them, because, of course, you can surround them with blue flames that they cannot escape from, and that's after your flame or your charge attack has already done the damage, the base damage. So the fact that this builds up damage so quickly, and of course it looks so cool on an aesthetic level, like seriously, having blue fire just blaze around the ground has such destructive nature to it, and it's so incredibly fun and it looks so incredibly cool, that I just have so much fun incorporating it into an improved Igniter's moveset, thanks to the logic and strategy that it adds. And it actually gives you more motivation to utilize these other attacks as well, makes this gameplay more fast-paced and feel more fresh, because you're encouraged to use those other attacks much more due to the advantage the blue flame gives you. So yes, Igniter, more specifically his Series 2 iteration, and his blue flame WoW pow counterpart, has reached number 5 on this list, mind you, but prepare for some amazing WoW pals, including that of Thornhorn camo. Well, as you can tell, this isn't actually Thornhorn camo, because I don't have Thornhorn camo on me at the moment. It's currently in storage at my university accommodation. So let's just use the powers of imagination to pretend that camo's WoW power ability is right before us, since what it does is that when you combine it with the bottom path you saw right there, you can create watermelon explosions galore. Your firecracker vines create explosive melons, your melon shields create explosive melons. Basically what this means is that fireworks are shot all over the screen and cover such a wide area that enemies are annihilated in mere seconds. They can't even get close to camo, because his melons have already filled the screen with so much colour and destruction. It's so much fun and so rewarding to create such destruction, and because it improves the character on a visual level tenfold, it's ultimately what makes WoW POW so satisfying and so much fun to utilise, hence why it's number 4 on the list, beating out even that of Series 2 Igniter. I know how strange this list must seem to all of you. Receiving a bronze medal for the 3rd spot is none other than Short Shot Shroom Boom and his WoW power, because as we're about to see as we launch through this power chamber, we have the high spore, which means that we can create mushroom bumpers and play pinballs with enemies. So this is an expansion upon the self slingshot maneuver, so the fact that they were able to take such a fun ability of Shroom Booms already and really elevate how much fun you have watching it unfold before you is truly what makes this a justified reappearance of a character, just because they take what's obvious, in other words. Like, seriously, when I saw Shroom Boom for the first time, or at least more specifically this Soul Gem, I made a prediction that one day he has to return his repos and create some sort of pinball type maneuver, and I was correct. Clearly the developers read my mind, just because it has so much sheer awesomeness within it, and they created this figurine for Trap Team with none other than not the most effective WoW power, because this takes an awful long time to charge up, and if you're hit at any time during the charge up, it's of course cancelled out. So that can be a huge time waster and really negatively affect the pacing, because man, it takes a really long time to charge this up. I can't emphasize that enough. But after you've finally charged it up, it does deal over 300 damage with the Centrus Shroom that is created from the explosion right here. As you can tell, that was a huge damage counter. Now, unfortunately, you don't really hit many enemies with it. It's very rare for enemies to be trapped between all of the different pinball bumpers. But that's not going to take away from just how much fun this is to watch. Like, seriously, how can you not be satisfied by that? You have incredible pinball sound effects. You have really fast-paced animations that sound and look cool. You have really colourful mushrooms. Like, seriously, you cannot deny how much fun it is to charge this up and just watch Shroom Boom go crazy with this WoW power ability and just how creative it is. Like, I was calling it predictable earlier, but there's nothing wrong with that because of that creativity. It's just that creative minds think alike quite clearly. As I said earlier, I did kind of predict this WoW power, but enough of tooting my own horn. That's ultimately just what makes this WoW power so effective and so personal to me. It's creativity, it's expansion upon for base design, giving you something that is a perfect fit for character and giving you just something so much fun to watch that's unrivaled by any other WoW power in the sheer fun factor behind it. Now, moving on to number 2, we have none other than Series 2 Double Trouble right here, which as we check out his upgrade chamber right here, you can notice that his WoW power allows this beam to be split up between different enemies as it locks on. Because the great thing about Double Trouble is that you can lock your beam on an enemy and then maneuver around them to dodge their attacks, which is effective right off the bat. But now that you can split your beam amongst these enemies and defeat multiple enemies at once thanks to the splitting of said beam, it makes it far more effective for maneuverability and keeping Double Trouble at a range so you defeat enemies before they have a chance to even hit you. But that's not even what makes this WoW power so broken, because when you combine that with the bottom path, you have an unstoppable force to be reckoned with, because the bottom path allows doubles to be created whenever you defeat an enemy with a beam. Well, since your beam is being split amongst enemies, you're defeating 3 enemies at once, and the next thing you know, you have 3 really powerful doubles launching and locking onto a single enemy that defeats them, and then you have another wave of enemies incoming, but that's no problem whatsoever, because once again, you split up your beam, and you create those doubles, and you lock onto the final enemies that the beam wasn't able to finish off. So above all, just combining this WoW power and how effective that is with its combination with the bottom path, man, I said with a lot in that sentence, but as I digress, everyone's favourite phrase that I seem to need to use every single video, that's ultimately what makes Double Trouble so much fun. You know, we have a Series 1 iteration, which is fine, it's kind of lackluster in the damage department, but this guy's damage absolutely stacks. You can't really see it too well on these training dummies, because the main weakness to it is the fact that the beam doesn't spread very far. But the fact that you can defeat enemies so quickly with this and keep your distance so well with that maneuverability still capable, or still being capable of that maneuverability even, is ultimately what makes Series 2 Double Trouble such a great expansion in terms of his WoW power really adding to his base gameplay and improving it and just making him such a huge force to be reckoned with as he stacks damage like crazy. But coming in at number 1 without a shadow of a doubt is a character that a lot of people seem to sleep on, and I can't possibly fathom why, because Series 2 Prison Break has the most broken WoW power out of all of them, and you're about to bear witness as we check out his upgrade chamber just why that is. Because, you know, down this bottom path here, you're about to see that we can triple reflect our beam through these crystals. Not only that, but we could also create a gem just by defeating enemies, thanks to his soul gem ability for Shard Soul Prison. So how does the WoW power expand upon all this? Well, we have the pulse power, which means that whilst we hold the primary attack button, we can press the special attack button to send a powerful pulse down the beam. And this is not just your base beam right here. You know, it's more than just that. It's every single beam you reflect through your crystals as well. So here we have a reflection. We have several lasers being created right here, and a super beam being sent through all of them. That is if, you know, my WoW power here wants to even focus on the crystals rather than the training dummies. We're a huge fan of training dummies, apparently. But yeah, as you can see, the sheer quantity of beams right here is unparalleled. You can defeat huge hordes of enemies from a distance thanks to this WoW power, which is incredibly broken because it has no cooldown whatsoever. You can do it so fast after you've done one already. Like, seriously, look at this. There's almost no cooldown time to it whatsoever. And so with that, you're quickly stacking hundreds upon hundreds of damage on multiple enemies as your beam is reflected upon all of them. And on top of all of that, because you've defeated multiple enemies very, very quickly, you've formed even further crystals by defeating them and creating your Shard Soul Prison Soul Gem ability. So that creates even more reflections upon even more reflections. So the next thing you know, you might have 12 enemies in front of you, but you defeat them all with one fell swoop by incorporating this Super Beam into your refractions right here. And it's not like it's light damage either, it's triple digits, it's 321 per hit. And that is such a huge sum. This guy deals damage like crazy, and it takes such huge advantage of the fact that you can reflect your beams and use strategy and logic over any other Scada's gameplay, which further invests you in Prison Break's gameplay style, because of course you are utilizing your brain and figuring out where you should drop down your crystals, how you should reflect them and all. And so that logic brought back to the gameplay strategy through this WoW POW is incredible, and it gives Series 2 Prison Break without a shadow of a doubt the greatest WoW POW of all time, since you're not dealing 300 damage to one enemy, no, you're dealing 300 plus damage to over 12 of them, if you of course play your crystals right, which apparently I haven't this here gameplay showcase. But man, that was one interesting animation right there, and now we're just going to jump off a cliff to end off the top 10 with. But when I said animation, I meant the fact that that crystal was of course suspended in midair, and as was the supposed earth around it. But enough of me pointing out how broken Trap Team is. We're going to be bringing this top 10 to an end even. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will of course be seeing you in the next one. And until it memorizes, peace.